It's the 14th of October and I'm Tom Glass and welcome to The Roast. Tonight, Tony Abbott has threatened to shirt-front Vladimir Putin, which sounds ridiculous, but it's not as ridiculous as his earlier ideas. Dack Putin, put Putin's head in the toilet and flush it, cripple Putin's nipple. I mean, really? All in all, I'm just glad he didn't resort to schoolyard violence and instead resorted to AFL oval violence, because that's the sort of maturity we expect from the leader of Team Australia, threats of violence on foreigners. Anyway, here is Mark Humphries with the headlines. Oh, here's another idea. Be diplomatic. Oh wait, no, there's a red line through that one.
Tony Abbott, the guy who's going to bash Putin, has opened a new coal mine in Queensland. So he's making good on his promise to build the roads of the 21st century and the energy source of the 19th century. Never one to miss a chance to say something factually inaccurate, the Prime Minister used the opportunity to say this.
Coal is good for humanity.
Sounds like someone might have missed the UN Climate Summit.
The United Nations top climate official has warned most of the world's coal must be left in the ground to avoid catastrophic global warming.
So, Tony, what do you say to that small percentage of scientists who think coal might not be good for humanity?
It's very important that we sustain our faith in coal.
You hear that, polar bear? Just keep the faith, brother! Now, just to recap on Tony Abbott's environmental views, yesterday he said that coal is good for humanity. 6 months ago he declared that forest loggers are the ultimate conservationists. So stay tuned for next week when he announces that plastic rings are the best friend animals have ever had. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has made his first public appearance in over a month. It had been thought the Supreme Leader had been suffering from discomfort, or what's also known as living in North Korea. The front page of North Korean newspaper Rodong Sinmun shows photos of the leader supporting himself with a black cane, indicating that the Supreme Leader may in fact be a Supreme Leaner. But you never know what to believe in the North Korean press, especially since Rodong Sinmun is run by the notoriously biased Rupert Murdoch. A company in the US has built the first ever fully functioning 3D printed car. The car is made from a mixture of carbon fibre, plastic and former employees of the US auto industry. And finally, it's been a year since Bill Shorten took over as leader of the Labor Party. Let's take a look back at the most impactful moments of Shorten's first year.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest.
For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Thank you, Mark. Of course, when I look back over Shorten's first year, I think... yeah. Now the G20, aka boom time for anyone selling translator headphones, will be taking place in Brisbane next month. It was confirmed over the weekend that Russian President and man who's letting Edward Snowden sleep in his spare room, Vladimir Putin, will be attending the summit. So I'm sorry, Scott Morrison, but it looks like you're going to have to update your scoreboard. Now, opposition leader Bill Shorten, seen here trying to think of the catchphrase that will defeat Putin, came out swinging against the decision.
When you deal with international bullies, the way you do it isn't by laying out the red carpet.
No, you stab him in the back like a real man. Prime Minister Tony Abbott, on the other hand, vowed to literally come out swinging, suggesting a heated confrontation is on the cards over the MH17 disaster.
Look, I'm going to shirt front Mr. Putin. You bet you are. You bet I am.
Oh, I f***ed it. Sorry, I mean, you f***ed me. I mean, crap. So if we go to war with Russia, that's the line that history will remember. That's our St. Crispin's Day speech.
Oh, God! I'm not ready to die! How did it come to this? Get it together, boy. You're a shirt front, for God's sakes. Remember the words of our great leader. Okay. You bet you are! You bet I am.
I am.
You are... What? Oh, God. Why are we still fighting like this? After you were. Oh, God!
Wars don't solve anything. Fronting them in the shirts, that's how you fix a problem. Just one thing, what is shirt fronting? Oh, God! So is Abbott going to shirt front corporate tax avoidance at the G20 as well, or is that off the agenda now? Just don't try to smash into Ebola, that's how it spreads. So Abbott has vowed to shirt front Putin, to which Putin replied, but how can you shirt front a man who is allergic to shirts? To which Abbott replied, well, two can play at that extremely gross game. But look, Tony, not for nothing, Putin is no stranger to fisticuffs. Oh, and he's cool with fighting anyone, Tony. Anyone. Kids, puppies, He just judo chopped this chick in the throat because it wasn't cute enough. Still, our Prime Minister is standing strong.
Now, I think that there'll be a lot of tough conversations with Russia, and I suspect that the conversation that I have with Mr. Putin will be the toughest conversation of all.
Oh, yeah. And what do you say to that, Russia? Specifically, the English language edition of the Russian newspaper Pravda?
When Australia isn't busy crawling around the legs of its colonial master England, or trying to crawl up the anatomy of London's master Washington, its politicians are busy kowtowing to Europe and the USA, making stupid and unfounded remarks about Russia.
Yeah, they got me pegged. I'm always crawling up Washington's anatomy. But don't worry, Australia. Pravda said our people were different to our politicians, something they had observed through an in-depth analysis of our country's vibrant culture and history.
One only has to look at productions such as Neighbours. It's the image Australia would like to project to the world, namely a community-based, family-oriented people helping each other out.
Neighbours, ensuring Russia won't invade us. We'll be right back.
Have you ever picked a fight with a country much bigger than you? Are you one of those little yapper-type dogs that's got no idea how small it actually is? We'd love to hear about it. At the Roast TV or hashtag Roast TV or hashtag No Boy. No, bad dog. Stop yapping.
And with the G20 fast approaching, the whole world wants to know, will Abbott actually beat up a world leader at a multilateral meeting? Because if we know one thing about our Prime Minister...
I don't like breaking promises.
But when it comes to violence, the PM is a bit of a flip-flopper. Sure, there have been allegations that he punches walls, but he's also an ambassador for the White Ribbon Foundation, which is anti-men's violence against women. And yeah, there's this picture, which, if anything, shows he's not at all a fighter. And he's also had this to say about the so-called coward punching phenomenon.
This is a truly insidious thing. This rise of the disturbed individual who goes out not looking for a fight, but looking for a victim.
So going out looking for a victim is bad, but looking for a fair fight with, say, the leader of a sovereign nation, that's fine. He does admit, though, with coward punching, that sometimes we're not all perfect.
I'm realistic enough to know that young people won't always be perfect and that making mistakes along the way is a normal part of growing up.
So maybe Tony just has a little more growing up to do. You know, when he finally becomes an adult and is allowed to choose his own bedtime, he'll realise that this sort of violent rhetoric is unacceptable. But look, as he says, everyone makes mistakes and that's okay.
It's just drunk.
Except when it isn't okay, which is always. So maybe the Prime Minister needs his own personalised reminder.
Look, I'm going to shirt front Mr. Putin.
I was drunk on power.
And look, by using all this pugilistic language, he's actually managed to give Vladimir Putin an out. This is a former KGB officer who was clamped down on gay rights, imprisoned Pussy Riot, and invaded Ukraine, and now all he has to say is, I won't respond to your silly little threats, Mr. Abbott, and he'll look more adult and statesmanlike. And while we know that Abbott was just using an expression and isn't actually going to fight Putin, it stands...
Tony Abbott has to fight Putin.
Oh, yeah?
Because as a leader, pathetic machismo is all he's got. Abbott doesn't have the charisma of an Obama, or the Obama-ness of a Widodo, or the roguish good looks of a Mugabe, or even the mandatory support enjoyed by a Kim. And now here comes Putin, the man who's killed with his bare hands, which he took from a bear he killed with his human hands. So Abbott needs to assert his dominance, like a dog, or a guy on his first day in prison.
Well, this is the Prime Minister, Nick. I mean, it's not a criminal.
Yeah, potato, potato.
So how do you think the G20 summit's actually going to play out?
Well, I could tell you, Tom,
Yeah.
or I could show you using the time-honoured tactic of flip bookery. You know, Tom, in Soviet Russia...
Book flips you?
No, Tom, in Soviet Russia, journalists like us were jailed.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Putin. Finally, we're face to face. Duh. Well, what are you going to do about it? Get him. Tony! 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 Mr. Putin, you are Tony Abbott. What? I am Tony Abbott. Shit. Please don't hit me! And stay out. The end. Well, we feel safer under your command, Prime Minister Thugman.
Good night.